want to have time right now actually to do a little bit of remembering our fabulous Rotarian who recently passed away, Paul Miner. So I wanted to make some space in the meeting today during the assembly to share any stories of Paul, to share impact, how his life made a difference from your personal perspectives. And so we just go as long as we need to go. It's all club business today. So I'm going to start. Tom Rabe sent me something from his perspective. He couldn't be here today. He's taking his parents to some medical appointments. So I will say so this is in Tom's voice. My fondest memories of Paul center around the many dedicated hours he spent on the Concord program, sometimes pulling all-nighters to get it done. It was a tremendous amount of work under a deadline, and he never complained. I will never forget his dedication to this task, and he saved the club many thousands of dollars in expenses that could then be used for donations in our community. Thank you, Paul.
As a music teacher, I can't help but honor Paul for his music. He was an incredible singer and tenor, sang in the organ chorale, sang here at this church, played organ in this church. He surrounded himself his whole life with music. He would be at the Rasmus house every night or at the Fry's and surrounded himself with music at all times. And even in his last days, he's been playing the organ here. And he's an incredible musician.
It's only appropriate that somebody's playing the organ right now because Paul had an immense love for the organ. And he had played a big role in the new organ that was placed in this church 2 years ago. He wanted to be the first one to play it. I think he was the first one to play it when it was fully installed. You couldn't get through a Sunday that he was playing without having some kind of Bach composition. He loved Johann Sebastian Bach, loved playing his fugues on the organ, and around Halloween time, you could bet that you could hear da da da. As hard and as raucous as Paul Miner could play something, he would definitely be on that. And I think what I'll remember him the most for is the opportunities I had to perform in the choir here at the church, and sitting next to him, listening to his tenor voice, his musicianship was just an absolute treat. It's something that will carry with me for the rest of my life.
If you'll pardon me for the mustard I got on my face, appreciate it. I wrote down some notes, but I can't read them. I'm not a very good writer. Paul was born October 27, 1939, and he just celebrated his 84th birthday when he died on December the 1st. He joined a Rotary Club in May 20th, 1970, which was 53 years ago. He was president of the club in 1997. 98, and he was the club's photographer. Back in the days before we had the DAC DB online, we had what you call a membership director, and Paul was the person that take the pictures for the directory. And when we wanted the director to explain what it was, it's a little book that has all the information on each member of the club. And every once in a while we would change that book because we needed to add different people and eliminate some of the others. But he would set up, when we needed these pictures taken, we used to meet in the basement at Pacific University, and he'd set up his backdrop and his chair at the back of the room, and we'd have our meeting. And then after the meeting, people would get in line and have their picture taken. And Paul also took all the pictures at the Concord. He would take them every unit, every area. And he'd pick out the ones he thought were the best and take the pictures. And then when it came time to have the cars go across the stage, well, he would take that too. And we got Keith Martin and his I guess it was his assistant. They take turns as the cars came across and talking about the car and the car owner and this and that. And they were both really windy. And so poor Paul had a stepladder that he is up on, and he'd have to sit there a long, long time sometimes. So he also was a I can't read that. Designer. He designed our logo. He designed our Christmas cards that we used to send out to the car owners. And he would take, we had Mike Hill was our painter. He used to take our featured car and paint a picture of it. And Paul would take that picture and he would put that on our posters and our T-shirts and the program, anywhere else we needed to put those in. And let's see here. Well, I guess the biggest job Paul had was the program. 60, 70 pages. He'd have to take the pictures of the cars that were entered and take that picture and put it in the program along with the information on the car. That'd take hours and hours and hours. And you just can't imagine how difficult that was. And I don't know when it was that the kidney failure got to where Paul couldn't come to Rotary or participate anymore. But I think it must have been a couple of years before the pandemic. And we talked to Linda, and she said that Paul passed away. He had lived a year longer than what the doctors had predicted. In that year, he designed his own
memorial service.
Yeah, his own service. And Linda said he was going to have a lot of music in there because he was on the choir and he played the organ. And then Linda got a smile on her face, and she said that she had asked Paul what he wanted her to do with his ashes, and he smiled and said, "Put them in the organ on the church."
Well, I suppose we should have a representative from the dental community, because among all the multitude of amazing talents that Paul had, he was a very, very fine dentist. I'd always admired Paul. He was kind of that generation that would be always willing to answer questions, anything that he'd be very open with everything. I remember, Dr. Nixon, of course, very similar. My father, just of that generation, that they were just so open and willing to share their experiences with the younger dentists in town. So just always admired Paul. He was just one of the good ones that you could always count on to help you out, and he will truly be missed.
Well, I know that it probably is unseemly for someone so young as me in Rotary here to be able to talk about Paul, but I'd been involved in Rotary previously, and when I came here and joined about 4 years ago, I will never forget how warm and welcoming Paul was, and he just always had an open hand and was an incredible, force for your club. I went to my first, concourse. He was everywhere. He was there during all the concourse meetings. He was there during, the day of, and he was all over in every area of the entire event. So I was always impressed with Paul, and he was always so generous with his time and his welcoming attitude. I truly felt blessed to be here when he was here. Thank you.